Thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it. You are doing a thing that I think frightens most couples, which is trying to build a business together. One, for anybody who's built a business, it is incredibly difficult as it is. Now you're doing it as a couple. One, why?
What a question. Yeah. I mean, I can kick it off. I mean, the number one thing, right, is if you're building anything in life, right, you need to do it with someone who shares your core values, right? You can be as different as can be on the surface. And you'll notice between us, right, she's a little bit more extroverted, like the type of person that's going to stand on a table, right, and kind of dance a little bit. I'm a little bit more reserved. I need to desocialize a lot of the time. But like one thing, and like how we met, it's a pretty wild story in itself. But like one thing that I really recognized was like, of course, I had this idea with Gevity and this real opportunity. But as a project, you can't just carry like by yourself. You need a team. You need people surrounding you. And so then when we like kind of linked up and our relationship flourished and we really start like building like a plan for the future, I looked at her and I was like, man, we share core values. And like when you have that, I think you can be as different as can be on a surface level. But when you share those core fundamental values of like what drives you, what you take pride in, how you are and operate as a human day to day, I think it's like a dream team to like push something such as, the concept that we're doing. So I think, it's having those core values are so important.
Yeah. Espoir?
For me personally, I've been in a lot of relationship where I've never grown, right? I always felt like I was stuck. Like that person next to me is not the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. So for me personally, I've never met someone like Connor before. When we crossed paths, it was insane. The word when you know really clicked. And the amount I grew just beside him has been insane over the course of since I met him, day one, essentially. So for me, the why, I've always wanted to open up something similar, right? Create something with someone, but I never found the right person. And when you know and you find that right person, you can grow together, right? And you'll go through every obstacle together. But the one thing for me personally is at the end of the day, you always choose each other, right? You're respectful, you care about each other, you're understanding. And ultimately, if you both want the same thing, then it's growth.
So I like what you just said at the very end, which was at the end of the day, it's about each other. And so has that been kind of how you've navigated some of the challenges that might come up when you're building a business together, which is it's us first, not the business? Or like, how have you navigated kind of like personal life bleeding into work life where it all feels like the same thing? Is that something you've had to navigate?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you straight up, like right now, it's actually something we struggle with day to day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, obviously Gevity isn't built and we've been building this for the past 20 months. The first year of it was in a 400 square foot apartment, trying to live on no money. We had no idea what we were doing, writing the business plan, like literally on our floor because we had no furniture. And it's been like side by side. And of course, like in a relationship and intimate and, that side of like a relationship, but also business partners. Right. And so now we're getting to the point where we're working so much and we're just in that other room, yet we don't really spend a lot of quality time. So this is something that we're going back and forth on. Like, how do we spend that quality time, even though we're so connected on so many different levels? And we're like 3 steps away from each other. But where's those days and those times, especially early on in our relationship, where we're going on date nights and we're traveling and we're enjoying our days and we're going to the park and chilling? We're well beyond that right now, which is the chaos. So now it's like, okay, we got to juggle, like, of course, like having this business professional relationship where we own our own lanes and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of weight we're both carrying. Like we've been carrying this for like 16 months before we brought anyone in. But now it's like, okay, we really got to prioritize a relationship, right? And what does that mean? Okay, Saturdays, we shut it down. No emails, no, work talk. What we're going to do is wake up, drink some coffee, have a slow morning, play a game of chess, go do what we like doing, which is, working out, going to the river, going to Barton, swimming, and just taking at least one day where we can spend quality time to each other. So, yeah.
Anything to add?
For me, personally, this is a certain chapter when we're in right now, right? we have to navigate it. And actually, we had a conversation about that yesterday.
This is timely.
Yeah, it's no, because it
It's
is
real,
the
man.
reality of the situation, right? Like, I'm going to tell you honestly right now. I mean, we wake up, I start work at 7, 8. I don't shut my laptop till 9, 10 p.m. Every day, right? I don't take a day off. The only day I take off is Saturday that I want to spend with him, right? I don't really see any of my friends anymore because I don't have any time. And if I do, and I know it's like everybody has time, you just have to make it. It's just the reality of the situation right now is that I can't make any time because I'm getting pulled in all sorts of directions, right? But I remember like 3 weeks ago, or not even 3 weeks ago, probably like a month or like 6 weeks ago, was Connor and I standing in our bedroom. We looked at each other and we both started laughing. It was like this, I will never forget this scene in my head. And that emotion that I felt because we looked at each other and we're like, oh shit, like this is real. Like this is happening. Like we're doing this. We looked, we laughed. I probably laughed and cried and then we fell on the bed and we hugged each other.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though it is this stressful right now, even though we don't get the quality time that we would love to have, I can look back to those certain moments that we've had together and be like, damn, you know? Didn't have that quality time, but we love each other to death. We will always choose each other. But at the end of the day, right now, really making sure that Gevity launches properly is our main priority.
Yeah. I like what you said about chapters. I think that's what I find that I've gotten lost in that as well. And I think general population does as well. As we all go through chapters of life. And there are certain seasons where things are more intense, work. I'm in the same chapter that you guys are in where I work roughly 70 to 75 hours a week. And that's pretty much it. It's like work out, maybe see friends one day, maybe. And it's just understanding like they're actual chapters and they will end. And I think we get caught up in this is my life forever and not realizing that there's another side to the chapter. You just have to get through the chapter. And it's just understanding like what you're willing to commit to in order to see what's on the other side. Yeah. It's interesting. How has it felt for you guys as you've gone through this very intense chapter. Now you're kind of starting to see the other side of it, which is, hey, maybe we should invest one day in our relationship. Has that been a noticeable shift in the way you guys are able to connect with each other?
100%. I need that one day with my husband, with Connor,
Yeah.
to really feel like I can regenerate. You know, it's so chaotic, so stressful. And at the end of the day, every day, getting to that point at night where we can just shut it off, give each other a hug and cuddle.
Snuggle.
For me, snuggle, I love saying snuggle, is makes my day because it's so stressful. And I'm like, I'm not going to start complaining about it, right? Like, I'm going to ride that wave so hard, right? But then by the end of the day, what gives me a sense of belonging, like secureness and love, is him every day. So that Saturday, nobody can take that away from me. If he plans anything on Saturday, I'm going to be like, no, mister, you are mine.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No meeting up with the boys on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
Saturdays are not for the boys anymore.
No Vegas
that's
trips
for
right
sure.
now. No, you're locked in.
Yeah, locked in for sure.
Has there been something that's been like surprisingly easier than you were expecting building a relationship or building a business with your partner?
Yeah. And I think like, this is like, I think there's a connotation, right? Don't start a business with your family. Don't start a business with your significant other.
Even friends.
Even friends, right? But like the more, and if you truly build a business, you recognize like you need people on your side that are like bought in wholeheartedly, right? That are willing to sweat, willing to bleed for like just this underlying mission, right? Whatever that business or, focus is, right? And so I always think back, you never know what's going to happen, right? So like when we had met, like it was traveling and we can always get into that, but like our relationship was like, okay, she's the one, And I'll never forget, like I flew into Austria to meet her family and we spent a few weeks in Austria. So she took me out, she's trying to like charm me, right? So she takes me out to Tyrol, which is like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Austria.
No,
I've
heard it's incredible.
It's like the one country I actually got culture shock because like, everything was like so pristine. It was like all the bushes were like manicured and like everyone was like walking on the proper side of the street. I'm coming from Austin where everything's like covered in graffiti and it's a bit of chaos and there's like those scooters lying around everywhere. So you go to Austria and I have a bit of culture shock and it's like this like beautiful scenery, like, you know, it's exactly probably like what you've seen like Switzerland and stuff like that, right? And so we're out there in the mountains and she used to work, what was it, a hotel at a ski resort or something like that, right? So we had a couple days out there and like we're having dinner and stuff, like nice romantic dinner, basically had the place to ourselves, what I remember. And like she gets up and she's like back there cleaning dishes because that's where she used to work, you know? And I was like at the time, I'm like, what the heck? Why is this girl blowing me off to like go in the kitchen and like talk, you know, with her chef friend and like clean dishes while I'm out here, you know? And then like I really thought about it. And I was like, well, and like obviously at this point, like I had the idea for Gevity and okay, like I really want to dive into this, be an entrepreneur, start a business. But I need, like, obviously I'm falling in love with this beautiful girl. Like, and I remember looking and vividly thinking back then, I was like, she takes pride in what she does. Right. And like, she's the one who's going to own responsibilities and drive things forward. And like, that's a trait not many people have. People cut corners. People, you know, are very complacent in life. Where I saw that and like that little sign of like, oh, she takes pride in what she's in what she does and she's willing to work hard, right? When she doesn't need to. I immediately, like, the light bulb went off. I was like, I can build something special with her. And of course, like, once we hit the ground running and we started writing the business plan and it was like, oh shit, this is for real. Of course, it was a bit of rocky, like really understanding that dynamic, as you can imagine. But man, 8 months into the whole thing, it was like, you own it, you drive it, and I don't even have to ask questions, right? She doesn't have to ask me questions. It's like there's that mutual trust that like we both, like, again, goes back to the core values. It's going to be a pretty common theme, I think. But it's like we both take pride in what we do, right? We both work hard. We both try to lead with empathy. And like, as long as we do that, at least I believe this, and I know you do too, I'm sure you do too, but the universe will work itself out, right? So as complex and as crazy, as chaotic as these days are, knowing that you have someone who is luckily my like partner in both business and life, right? That I can trust wholeheartedly, that like if I'm not around, she's going to run the ship, right? And I know that you have that trust and that mutual respect with me too. So yeah.
That's a great point. It's the trust. Like,
big trust.
That's probably one of the hardest things when building a business with anybody, whether it be somebody, a stranger or another co-founder or like a partner, is like, do you actually like wholeheartedly trust them? And to your point, if this is my partner in life, I should wholeheartedly trust them. So why wouldn't I trust them with this thing? For you, Espoir, where did that pride come from? Where did this like level of just pride in everything that you do actually come?
Well, that would probably go back to, I would say, 15 to 20 years of a pretty crazy upbringing.
Hit me with it.
Are you sure?
Positive.
I guess.
Cool. Well, first of all, I want to say you make me cry over here. Like, seriously. That was sweet of you.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I'm one out of 12 siblings. So I have 2 half siblings and then 10 siblings from the same parents. So essentially, both my parents are personal trainers and instructors, and they own one of the first gyms in Vienna. So I grew up essentially living in a gym, right? And like watching people do squats before I even know what a squat was. And not just by myself, right? I had all my 9 other siblings with me. So it was a pretty crazy upbringing, living in an environment where you're constantly not surrounded by your friends, but your family, right? And like 7 brothers is a lot. So it's very competitive. I'm very competitive, by the way. But that's not even where it started. It's essentially how my parents raised us. They're entrepreneurs at heart, but they're also hippies at heart. So my parents are not your typical Austrians. And when you meet Austrians, and obviously not everybody's the same, but a lot of Austrians they like the country, and there's no shame in that, right? They're not the biggest travelers, not like the Germans. So my parents are the total opposite. My dad is an adventurous. He essentially, before I was even born, he bought a boat, right? So Austria doesn't have a sea, so he bought a catamaran with my mother, and they brought it to Italy, which is a 24-hour drive from Austria. And we used to always go on a boat, during like summer holidays for 3 months and just sail around Italy, right? My dad kind of taught himself.
Life as a European, huh?
Yeah, right. What are we doing here? Like,
Just taking off August or whatever.
No, but that's like summer holidays, right?
Yeah.
So, from one day, when we did that for a long time, and then from one day to the other, my dad was like, I don't remember, I was 10 back then. He was like, you know what? I want more. Let's sail around the world. So my sister back at the time, she was old enough to manage my parents' gym. And my brother, he was doing his own thing. He's the second oldest. So my dad essentially took us 8 kids on a boat. And him and, my mom wholeheartedly trust him. Because if you think about it, how crazy is it that you as a father, the leader of the family, take your 8 kids on a boat and sail around the world?
wild.
Insane. How scary. The older we grow, the more we realize, oh my God.
Just like
No, I mean, I never thought about it. And the more I think about having kids, the more I'm like, oh my God, my parents are crazy. But yeah, so essentially from one day to the other, my mom was like, yeah, let's do it. So packed up the 8 kids. Yeah, we had like a ILS, which is a German like remote school. But my dad, he was always like, the more you learn the most about the world, not in the books, but actually exploring it, right? So he was always like, no, not too many books, bring crystals. So that was kind of his hippie side. We had a crystal on top of our mast. So the mast, right, is the pole right there, and we had a crystal on top of it, and it was lighting. My dad's
so amazing.
Yeah. So essentially, we took all of us 8 kids, got on a boat, and traveled around the world. So we crossed the Atlantic, went for 3 weeks, no sea. We're just playing chess, backgammon, Texas Hold'em, blackjack, watching movies, reading books, working out, all together as a family, for 3 straight weeks. And then we essentially, stayed a long time in Brazil. I mean, I don't want to go into the whole spiel of everywhere we went to, but we crossed the Panama Canal, went to the opposite side, the Pacific side. And the biggest thing about this upbringing is how adjustable you need to be, right? Because you're constantly in different countries. You're constantly different cultures. And especially at such a young age, it's so important because you're seeing the world from a different lens. You're not seeing the nice fences, right? You're seeing the poorness of the world. So it makes you see it from a whole different lens, especially as a 10-year-old, So we sailed around the world essentially for 7-8 years. As soon as I turned 17, we kind of went back home, and we've been going back and forth back home. But that in me, the amount of countries I've seen from such a young age, the cultures, the people I've met, and being so adjustable has made me very proud in whatever I do in life, right? Because it's not about the title, right? It's so much more. It's how you are as a human for me personally. And that shapes you as a very young age. So as soon as I turned 18, I was like, well, what am I doing here in Austria? I'm just sitting there. I'm not going from country to country. This feels weird, right? So I turned 18, packed my backpack, and went on a plane for the first time alone and flew to Nicaragua and lived 3 years there. Kind of figured out myself. I was working at a surf camp, teaching surf, teaching yoga, and just figuring life out. I'm putting myself in a lot of uncomfortable situations. So yeah, that was a very long answer.
No, that's great. And it sounds like you've had a similar travel journey part of your life as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a family out of Chicago, so
yeah,
847 represent. But yeah, I mean, my family, we like traveling, but grew up maybe going down to Mexico, right? And that was pretty much it until I was 18, and then went to my freshman year at school down in Texas, and ended up taking a year off my sophomore year. And I was in a good place. I was partying. I was I just wasn't the human that I knew I wanted to be. Yeah. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a pause for right now. And I remember went back, and my dad had just started a company, and I was studying business. So I went to go work for him for 6 months. And obviously when you're in a startup, it's so much more that you can learn than in a classroom, right? So I did that. But then I'm looking back, and this is in the Facebook days, right? Seeing all my friends at the frat house partying. I'm what am I doing? Sleeping in my basement, at my parents' house, in the prime, 19 years old. So then I you know what? I need to do something really get outside my comfort zone. I always had been adventurous, or always kind of almost thinking outside the box in a lot of ways. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go down to South America. Spend 2 months in Bolivia and a month in Peru, living with families, taking Spanish classes. I was doing a bunch of treks in the Bolivian mountains. And then that was like, and like Bolivia is a special country and a whole, like, not a lot of people know about it, but there's deep history there. The culture is unreal, phenomenal food. It's very different, but it's also the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere behind Haiti. Right. So I'll never forget leaving there and just being like, oh, wow, there's way more to life than my little bubble of where I grew up. And so that always planted the seed of like, I want to explore the world. Right. Then I went back to school, ended up getting my degree, but like my junior year in school, I went out to Australia and studied technology entrepreneurship in Melbourne and Sydney. And I'll never forget, I was in a cafe in Sydney and I was like, I don't even know what I was doing, drinking coffee or whatever. And like, I ended up talking to this random dude and he's like, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to ferment behind a desk like in the prime years of my life. He's like, why don't you go teach English somewhere? And that planted the seed. And like, so I was like, all right, like, well, that's like always an option, right? And so I ended up like finishing my, undergrad. And then I was like looking for jobs and nothing lined up. I was like, I wanted to live in San Francisco. I wanted to live in Denver and I studied in Fort Worth. And so like, these companies, they weren't like taking, whatever, right? So I just said, screw it, I'm going to go teach English. So I moved to Thailand, took my last test on a Friday, moved to Thailand that Monday, taught English, science, math, and art out there for a year. Small rural town on the border of Cambodia. And like, that was like where I really learned just like complete adaptability. I mean, it could not be more different from like the way I grew up or anything that I was used to back home. I mean, imagine that, like living in a small rural town, right? No one speaks English. You go to the local market, everyone's eating bugs and like, it's just, it's a whole different life, right? Yeah. And then you got a job, right? So you need to like earn an income and then you're paying taxes and you got, all this stuff, right? And you see a place differently, like when your coworkers are born there, right? Yeah. And the rents do. So, I ended up like kind of doing that for a year and that travel bug wasn't out of my system quite yet. So, and luckily like with that, like people think like, oh, you just go, screw off and, run around the world. But like, actually I was making decent money, all things considered. It's earning like $1,000 a month. Obviously that doesn't sound like a lot compared to like Austin standards, but they provided accommodation, a motorbike, laundry service, 2 meals a day. And, I was saving like $800, right? So over the course of the year, I was saving like 80-90% of my paychecks over the course of the year. I like saved up enough in which like I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go move to Australia and like get a working holiday visa out there. So saved enough money to do that and ended up moving to Australia and worked out there for a year. And then, spent about 3 years right after post-grad, just traveling around, living in Thailand, living in Australia. And then I did a lot of traveling East Asia, including like India and Nepal, and then I made my way back and then kind of started a career, but the travel bug has never left. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you guys both share like such a similar adventurous experience. And you both said the same thing, which is the adaptability of travel. So if there's somebody they're listening to this podcast, they're 18 years old and they're like, I've always wanted to travel, but maybe I'm scared, maybe I'm nervous. Espoir, what would you like recommend? Like, what would you say to that person? 18, they really want to travel, given all of your experience.
So I would say it doesn't matter whether or not you're female or male, but I want to talk to the female population out there because I know it can be so scary, right? Especially for female solo travelers. It's been the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, putting myself out of that comfort zone and just jumping and doing it. Because like the worst emotion that you can feel essentially is fear, right? And that's the first thing when you're doing something that you're not used to, you're going into an environment that you've never been in before. Like all the what if scenarios in your head, they don't matter. If your gut is saying yes and you want to chase that and you really listen to your body, whether or not that is the right choice for you, do it. So that's my...
I love it. Listen to your gut. Yeah. When you say there shouldn't be the concept around fear, and I think it's very appropriate to call out that single women or solo traveling women, there is certainly a lot more fear than Connor and I have to kind of deal with when it comes to travel. So how did you deal with that solo travel fear? And is it a real fear?
I think, well, it all depends, right? What your body is telling you. Yeah. Your body constantly, whether you jump in a cold plunge, it's telling you, oh, alarm goes off. You shouldn't be in here. Get out of here, right? It's telling you that you shouldn't be in here because you're in an environment that your body is like stressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you think about a scenario in your head where you're like, okay, I'm going to be doing this. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to book this flight. And then you did it. And then you have all these things coming up. But what ifs, right? And all these what ifs essentially is fear, right? It's doubt, it's fear, and it's not trusting yourself. So, sorry, what was your question again?
When it comes to like the solo traveling and, you know, you're in a foreign country, third world country, it sounds like oftentimes, just like, was the fear relevant in your travels? Or, yeah, just like how should a woman deal with this fear of being a solo traveler in countries where their life is probably slightly more at risk than, you know, other countries?
Number one, educate yourself.
Mm.
Do proper research. Don't just go anywhere and be like, oh, my friends told me to go there. Oh, I just saw a nice reel about it. Like wherever you go as a woman, for me personally, do research, right? So that's like for me the biggest thing. It's like the more comfortable, like the more I read about the country, the more I read about the people, the more I really dive deeper, the more comfortable I get traveling there, right? So that builds up my confidence. And what smashes a fear or that feeling of fear? Confidence. For me personally.
Yeah. I love that. I never thought about that, about like doing like deep research on a place and almost understanding the place before you get there probably helps you navigate it a little bit easier, or to your point, with a little bit more confidence as you're kind of entering a new country or a new environment or in communities.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Connor, any like recommendation? So again, same
He
thing.
has a lot. He has a lot.
Young person, they want to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your
I'll
thoughts?
speak like more or less to the guys, but I mean, like the big thing here is that, and I'm the type of guy who's literally backpacked Iraq, thrown in West Africa, you know, freaking hitchhike all throughout East Africa. And I go to the places people don't tell you to go, or at least like the Western media is like, beware of this place, you know, go to Paris instead. I'm like, no, throw me to Nouakchott, Mauritania, right? And let me live with it. Like
I think those were real words. So.
Yeah. Nouakchott, Mauritania. Well, Mauritania is a country that in West Africa, 4,000 people go a year. And you probably, there's actually, a movie called The Mauritian, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, but don't want to get into that. But the big thing here is like, well, number one, you're 18, right? The biggest education, and Espoir just alluded to this, right? Like she didn't even go to school, but she probably has a PhD in life, right? A real education is being able to go.
I went to school. Correct him, just to correct him.
I can read.
Yeah, just to correct him. Not guessing I didn't go to school. This is life.
University, right?
Okay.
University. And I think like the biggest education is just the world, right? And being out there. And like, you know, the big thing, and I give this advice because I get asked all the time, like I've been to 58 countries, like love traveling. I mean, it's like my big passion. It's like, where do I start? Well, number one, if you're young, you're 18, what do you have to lose? Go get a working holiday in Australia, right? Go teach English somewhere. Go work wherever you're going to go travel. And that way you're going to be immersed in the local culture. You're going to not see just like these headlines, but you're going to understand like how these local people live, right? And you're going to understand like, yeah, again, like you can be as different as can be on the surface, but at the end of the day, what do we all care about? Like realistically, it's like breaking bread, like enjoying quality time, chasing passions. And this is just, there's bad apples out there. That's inevitable. For the most part, there's freaking good people in every country that you go to, right? And so, and I'm a firm believer that there's way more good people in the world than bad people. So you do have to be on guard, but I also say like, you know, fear is just painted across all the whole travel industry. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like we're all humans, right? And like we're very similar, and despite, you know, culture differences, religion differences, you know, language differences, just pull back those layers. We're very, very similar, right? And I think that in itself, if you at least put yourself in that sort of environment where you're like actually conversing with locals and getting to know them and understand that way of life, you're going to really recognize like, oh, wait, maybe I shouldn't have had that much fear. And then number two, it's like, and this is like something I learned over the years, right? Align travel with a passion. So let that passion be your passport, essentially, right? So me, I love mountaineering. It's taken me all around the world to countries that no one would want to go to. Well, they should want to go there because they're beautiful, but like media would tell them otherwise. Pakistan, you know, Tanzania, you know, all around like the mountain, Nepal, even to a certain degree, right? align, travels with the passion, and that will bring you out there, and it's going to lighten you up a little bit. So whether that passion be mountaineering, whether it be photography, whether it be surfing, whether it be volunteering, align that passion with the align the travel with the passions, and I think that's going to really open your eyes. And number 3, like again, it's just like don't just follow the herd, right? Go to the places they tell you not to go to, because some of those places are going to be the most memorable experiences that you're going to ever have. Not from the standpoint that actually from this standpoint, it's like a lot of these countries they tell you not to go to. Number one, those countries don't get a lot of tourists, right? So what happens when a tourist does go there? People they come up to you, ask you questions, get to know you. Why are you here? Let me show you this about my culture. Let me bring you inside. Let me give you some food. Let me introduce you to my way of life. And just being able to put yourself in these countries in which maybe the headlines tell you not to go there, but go anyway, because you're going to recognize that, we're all good people at the end of the day, and peel back all those layers and we're very, very similar, right? So
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Same thing with I like what you said around let your passion guide your travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that's really important in the world of business.
Mm-hmm.
Is you let your passion kind of drive where you're going to go make money.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's this I'm curious your guys' opinion on this. Is I'm a firm believer in don't follow your passion for work, because oftentimes there's no money at the end of your passion,
Mm-hmm.
but fall in love with something that you're really good at and you'll learn to be really passionate about it because you're actually really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you align more with follow your passion, or do you align more with just be really good at something?
Ooh, that's a good one. For me personally, it's probably passion. Because, I do always want to get better at things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't just expect to learn everything. I mean, you have to, anything that you want to get good at, you're going to have to practice, and practice by doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's you live one life. If I'm passionate about something and I want to do this, then I'm going to do my best to do it, because you only live one life, right?
Mm.
So you can get good at something and you can study something and then work and do it, but are you going to be happy? It's just at the end of the day, yes, you're going to learn getting good at it, right? It's going to be something that you might get passionate about. But for me, if you're passionate about something and you live one life, make it happen.
Mm-mm.
It might be for me, I've always wanted to be a yoga teacher. I am a yoga teacher, right? But it doesn't make a lot of money.
Exactly.
It's
That's what I mean. This
so
whole
stressful.
follow your passion, where it's sometimes your passion just isn't really a good business model.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways you can make it more. It's there's yoga teacher, and then there's all these steps after. We can do retreats. You can educate someone else on becoming a teacher. There's a lot of steps you can take to actually get to a level where you can live pretty comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just you have to put in that work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, fair. From your travel, what have you brought in from travel that is most prevalent in your relationship today that facilitates your deep love?
is that a question for me? Yeah.
Either.
Okay.
Both. I think this is a both question for sure.
I can kick it off.
Yeah, you kick it up.
Yeah. Travel, I think there's some core elements of what travel means to me. 4 main pillars: enjoyment, appreciation, adaptability, and awareness. And I think this could apply to any aspect of your life. I think, travel for me has really opened up those doors as it relates to adaptability, awareness, appreciation, and enjoyment. And so I think, when you're building a relationship with someone, right, what do you have to do? You have to be aware. You have to be able to listen, right? You have to be adaptable. You have to learn, for us, right, build a business with each other, and be able to separate business versus personal life. Enjoy, right, those days that we do have, the Saturdays where we can shut it down, right? Or when we go do it, because we always, like to travel and stuff. So when we go and travel, really enjoy those moments. And then appreciation, you got to be grateful for it, right? So be grateful of every aspect of that person, whether it's good or negative, right? And be able to really, be grateful, because my partner in both business and life, you need to appreciate every aspect, because that's what makes us whole. So I think the awareness, adaptability, the appreciation, and enjoyment, I think it just like came to me with travels, but I've really tried to apply that to every aspect of my life. And obviously, most importantly, my beautiful wife.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. Espoir?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah. What did you learn during your travel that you've brought into your relationship that helps fuel like a healthy, full relationship?
I would say consciousness. That's one thing that I am still working on. I'm not there yet. I probably never ever will, right? Practice makes the master, but I learned from a very young age, and also like traveling, like growing up traveling, right? That first of all, adaptability and consciousness is so important. Not just the consciousness in your head in terms of your awareness, but also how are you, right? So me constantly putting myself out of my comfort zone, growing up the way I did, and then as soon as I turned 18, being like, well, I'm out of here,
I'm off this boat.
I'm off.
Literally,
I'm going to a different ship.
Literally and figuratively.
I would say I a lot of this I bring in, and that's like one thing that when we met traveling, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that we immediately noticed, I noticed that about him, and he noticed it about me. We both are very adaptable.
Yeah.
Right? And that's so important because you're essentially, when you're traveling, first of all, alone or together, you're being put into an environment that you're not familiar with, right? So a lot of people get stressed. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be here. They get moody, right? When you're traveling. But for us, it was pretty, we're like just grateful. And we're pretty easy adapting to all sorts of situations, just making the best out of it. Yeah. So I remember Mexico for our anniversary, actually, in April this year. We were supposed to, he surprised me to a trip to Mexico.
Where at?
San Miguel, where we were supposed to fly.
Okay.
San Miguel.
Familiar with San Miguel?
I've heard of it, never been.
It's ranked the most romantic city in the world.
Yeah.
So
sounds like a great place for an anniversary.
Our first year anniversary, I'm like, I'm going to surprise her, and then she'll get into it. But.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, amazing, right? And then we're at the Austin airport. We're on the airplane. We're about to fly off. He looks at the Airbnb, and he was like, oh, I booked our Airbnb in Guanajuato, not San Miguel, which is an hour away. And, I was just shocked because I was like really excited about San Miguel, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh, just adapt. Like, we're going to Mexico. I don't care as long as I'm with you, So we're both like, yeah, well, whatever. We go to Guanajuato, and it couldn't have been better. Loved it there. I want to go back so bad. Like, I'm so happy it happened, right? But if you're a person that is not adaptable in a situation like this, then you would have probably been upset or like, but we were both just laughing. We're like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And to add on that, like we did meet, like I was on a big long trip, right? And 2 months into that journey, I meet my now beautiful wife, right? In the south of Spain. And so then, but like that was 2 months into 11-month trip around the world. And of course I was like, I remember, I'll never forget, like my sister, before, like I sold everything, right? Just packed one bag, couple pairs of jeans, 45-liter backpack. And I was sleeping on my sister's couch before like I was catching a flight out to like Morocco to start this whole thing. And she looks at me, she's like, you're going to find your wife out there. Like, no chance. This year is for me. Like, it was like a rebuilding on myself for that year. And like, I really just wanted to rebuild like me, right? 2 months into that journey, I meet Espoir, right? And then our relationship flourished. But we weren't here. We weren't in Austin. We weren't really in Austria where she grew up. And so it just kind of worked out where we were constantly traveling with each other. And that, like, I mean, if you really want to get to know a person, go travel with them. And then go travel with them on a backpacker budget and really see how like chill they actually
Seriously.
are, right? And so that's what had happened. Like, we met in Europe, and then we did some traveling. I carried on, flew back to Austria. And then I was like, well, babe, I'm going to be in Thailand for a couple months. You want to meet me out there? Right? She's like, let's do it. I had like, I mean, when you're just, doing a big trip like that, you're pinching pennies, right? Yeah. And like, I was couch surfing, sleeping on floors, always taking local public transport. And we were living in small little huts in Thailand, $8 a night, like, eating local meals every day, like kind of, proper backpacker travel. And like, that's when I was like, she's the one. And in fact, that's the one where we like really looked at each other and we're like, yeah, this is going to work. Let's freaking try to build something special together. Let's take a jump, a real opportunity. And like, I don't think if we didn't do that 2-month trip in Thailand, that would not have told us what we needed to know to give us the confidence to go do what we're doing now. So I think the number one thing, I mean, travel is like, it's such an intimate part of our relationship. It means so much on so many different levels. I do not think if you just meet like someone on an app and then you go out to like a bar here, how can you build that real connection and see how they actually operate when they're out and about? They're in unfamiliar environments. There's maybe things that stress them, right? How are they holding themselves? And like that 2 months in Thailand, that painted a clear picture. I was like, well, if we can do this together, right? Then we could probably do anything, right? So that's so important.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that framing, and I think like what I hear is kind of an undertone almost. And don't let me put words in your mouth, but this is how I would feel as a man. So often as a man, we're sometimes it feels like we're being pursued for the life we can provide, not for who we are as a man. And I think that experience is, oh, I'm here for you as a man because you're not providing me shit. Like this
I'm providing you dollar meals, surprise, baby.
But you're like, no, you just want to be here. Like that's every man's dream. It's like a woman to just say, like, I want to be here with you, no matter what you can provide me, because I want to be with you, which is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Of course, but as a man, you want to be there. You want to be the protector. You want to be the provider, of course. But like, there needs to be a belief in someone, right? And I know for a fact you believe in me, right? So maybe at that time when I was pinching money or pinching dollars and had nothing but a couple pairs of pants and a backpack, right? And you're like, oh, maybe I actually see something truly special in him, right? And I believe in him. And I think that belief up front, maybe when not everything is just given to you on like a kitchen counter or kitchen table, I think is something that is super special. I think it's often neglected, right? Yeah. I think it's like very superficial, a lot of relationships. And there's not that test of like, oh, do I believe in this something? Because when you believe, right, what are you really doing? You're thinking of a future together. You're not thinking just in that day or that moment.
Yeah. Espoir, do you remember, like, obviously you remember the trip in Thailand, but like, do you remember what you were feeling, thinking, doing, behave? Like, just what was that for you that gave you this level of confidence in Connor that like he was your guy?
Oh, I knew that already way before. I knew that way before Thailand. I mean, we can go into like the story like of how we met. Actually, is pretty crazy. It's a really funny story because it was in a period of 5 hours. Yeah. If I didn't decide to fly into Spain that one day, and I was so close to not to, I would have never met Connor. Yeah. So we can go into it a bit later, but I've had that confidence right from the beginning. The one thing that, like, for me, like, the way I grew up is, like, I never chased money. I'm so not chased money in a way that I'm chasing money in a guy, right? Like, that's not, like, what I'm looking for the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. And it's not about how much money he makes. Yes, that is important in some sort of way. And, right, I want a provider and I want a leader of the family. But ultimately, that's not what I'm chasing because for me, I've just always done my own thing, always provided for myself. Nobody paid for my driver's license or any of that. I've always been like doing it myself. So I grew up in that way. And actually, when I met Connor, I've been very stubborn in a lot of ways. And he's taught me so much because I remember meeting him and he was like, well, you got to be vulnerable. Right? You can't be stubborn. Like, to truly love, you got to be vulnerable. I remember I was like, I don't want to be vulnerable. Like, no. Like, that means you can take my heart and just crush it, and then I'm going to be destroyed, right? But I had so much belief and trust in him and in the future that we're going to create together. And I just knew in my gut that he was the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So, yeah, I mean, that trust was always there. And from there, I would say, I mean, even in Thailand, it was all about just being with him wholeheartedly and then working towards our future. Because, like, this is literally what we're doing right now. We trust each other so much. Yeah. We're working so hard, but we're working towards our future.
Yeah.
Together. Yeah. Growing.
How did you balance when you first met south of Spain? I imagine this happens to a lot of people where they're like set out on this year-long journey, 2 months in, meet a beautiful woman. They're like, oh God, like, do I keep on my journey? Do I pursue her? Like, how did you guys kind of both navigate this thing in front of you that is clearly that you want, but there's also this thing that you'd already made up your mind that you were going to do? Do you remember having to like make that decision or how did you proceed?
See, that's a great question. I know you probably
For both sides.
add on to it too. But yeah, the big thing was like that year was for me.
Yeah.
There was nothing like it was 11 months through 27 countries, started in West Africa and ended up in Argentina. It was a dream trip that I had planned since 18, right? Like when you're young, you don't have the money, but you have the time. When you're older, right? You have the money, but you don't have the time. So it was like I looked up at the sky. I was like, this is the perfect time to do this dream trip. So there was nothing going to deter me from that. Although during that trip, I did deter a little bit of plans, not going to lie. But the beauty about it, right? We coincidentally met in the south of Spain just through like a mutual friend, essentially, right? I used to live in Australia, befriended this girl. She saw I was traveling. She's like, hey, me and my fiance in the south of Spain. We got this villa. It'd be great to catch up. Right? My friend's fiance, sister is Espoir. So she ended up being there. You know, yeah, we caught up for like 4 hours. She thought I was an arrogant American, didn't think anything of it, right? And then like I literally had to like get to the next, I think I was Valencia, and then I had to get to Alicante to fly to Belgium the next day to meet a friend, and we were doing a bit of a Euro trip for the next like 4 weeks. So I didn't think anything of it. But then I was passing through Vienna, where she's from. I was like, you know, that girl's kind of cute. Like, it'd be kind of cool to like get like a tour from a local's, you know, perspective in Vienna, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Just gonna hit her up. Like and when we first did meet, we played a game of chess. She beat my butt. So I was like,
sounds like it.
Yeah, I was like rematch. Loser shows the other like around town, you know, or whatever we said. And then we ended up like hanging out and had a really good like night. And then that ended up being 3 days running around Vienna. And 2 days into that, I was like, well, I got to leave here. I'm going to be in Albania in a couple of weeks. Do you want to meet me down there? And she was crazy enough to say yeah.
All my friends were like, you are crazy. You were just in Spain, and now you're going to go with this random guy you know for 2 days to Albania? Yeah. I was like, yeah, my God is saying yes. I'm going to go.
I'm like, babe, it'll be really cool. We're just going to get a car. We're going to road trip all around Albania. So I ended up doing that. She had like booked for just a week, ended up extending it. And then I'll never forget, we were driving around the Albanian Alps, and we both looked at each other and we were both like, ooh, something special here. Almost to the point where like, you got to think about it. This was maybe the 5th day hanging out, where I was like biting my tongue being like, am I going to like basically out myself and tell you I love you right now?
It's like the guy's greatest fear.
Then, but like seriously, I remember vividly like biting my tongue, like, don't be an idiot, don't play it cool, man. There's a beautiful girl, don't creep her out. But obviously, like I remember like, well, we were laying in bed one night and we both just kind of said it naturally. And I was like, oh, this is something special. But like at this point, it's like, man, I got 6 more months of travel. Like, you know, I'm going down, I got big trips in the mountains, and yeah, I'm doing all this travel. And you know, and your plans were?
Well, yeah. On top of that, it was at the tip of my tongue. I was literally just biting my tongue as well, being like, oh, should I say something? No, I don't want to be the girl being too quick, right? So we were both thinking the same thing, and that was like the funny part. And really, like when we met 2023, I mean, he had a pretty big year, right? He was all, I'm going to go travel around the world. Like nothing's going to stop me from that. Nothing's going to come in the way. And I was living in Australia. So I was living there for 6 months, and I loved it so much. It was always my dream. 2019, I wanted to go move to Australia. I have 2 sisters living there, and then COVID hit, right? So I had to wait 3 years, and then I finally did it. I went there for 6 months, absolutely fell in love with it, and I was like, well, I worked construction, I worked carpentry, I was a nanny, I was working at a garlic farm. I did all sorts of things, right? And I fell in love with carpentry. I'm like, well, I actually want to move back to Australia and study carpentry. So I was living there for 6 months. Then a month before Connor and I met in Spain, I came back to Austria, and I had my whole life set on moving to Australia. Nothing, absolutely nothing, no men, nothing is going to come in the way of me moving to Australia and studying carpentry.
And then it happened.
And then it happened.
And then it happened.
When you know, though. And that was like one of the hardest decisions in my, not hardest decision, but one of the hardest decisions. And that essentially like steered me, you know, it was like, if I didn't make that decision back then, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah. And I remember I was like so torn apart because I was like, oh my God, I really like this guy. I really like this guy. I'm falling in love with this guy, but I really want to move to Australia. What am I going to do? Again, my gut. It's like, yeah, I got to do this. Australia is still going to be here in 3 years, but he won't. Right? So.
It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up at the end of our time here. I wanted to thank both of you for what you're bringing to Austin, not only from like a physical standpoint, but like watching you two operate together is actually beautiful. Like the way you guys are, the love you have for each other, the love you have for the community here that has surrounded you. There's a reason so many people are in love with both of you. And it's really beautiful just to like watch you guys do what you do throughout this city. It's very felt. And yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you guys are actually doing out there in the world and on yourselves and on your relationship. If there is one piece of advice from each of you, whether it be about building a business or being with your partner, or just a piece of life advice that you think is like worthy of sharing that you haven't shared yet, what comes to mind? Connor, you first.
Yeah. This is easy. This is what I tell everyone, right? I'd say work hard, take pride in what you do, lead with empathy. And if anyone is judging you, who gives a F, right? Because if you're doing these 3 things, no one has the right to judge you, right? So I think approach life with that capacity and the universe will work itself out no matter what's going on. It may not happen overnight, but if you just lead with those 3 things, like I promise, like things will inevitably work out. I mean, I like that whole year before traveling, I had a huge setback and it turned into a massive blessing, right? And I think like I just operated that year as like as down as I was like, just going to work hard, take pride in what I do, lead with empathy, and things will work out. Now we got a business. Now I got a beautiful wife. We're living in Austin. We're doing cool podcasts, meeting you, Elliot, and really trying to do something special. So my big advice, just work hard, take pride in what you do and lead with empathy.
I love
and
that.
if anyone judges you, don't want them in your life anyway. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Espoir.
It's actually something that I learned from him. He's always said that from the first moment that we met. I love it. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having us. It means the world. And also, it's hectic, it's stressful. There's a lot going on, right? But having people like you rallying behind us and supporting us really is the fire under our butt and keeps us going. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
And for me, honestly, it's something I've gotten used to doing since starting Gevity with him, but it's just like, do it. Do it, and don't be afraid. Fall, get back up, and do it again. That, for me personally, has been the biggest challenge doing this whole thing with my husband, Connor. And I was just being like, that fear of falling, the thought before you fall is like, oh, I don't want to, right? Like, this hurts. Like, I don't want to fall. I want to be perfect. I want to make everything perfect. You're not going to. You're going to fall so many times, and that's how you're going to grow. That's my biggest advice.
I love that.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Cool. Thank you both. I appreciate
thank you, Elliot. It's a real pleasure. It's our first podcast. So.
Cool.
Yeah, let's go.
I love it. Thank you.
Podcast cherry.
Killed it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.